Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Passionate Professional series. My name is Tunde Kukoyi, and I'll be the host of tonight's episode. The Passionate Professional series is an offshoot of the Passion and Purpose Hub, which is a channel on YouTube that aims to share useful knowledge to help you maximize your passions and your purpose. The aim of this channel is to get you to stop thinking just beyond the level of mere success and to step to a higher level. That's a higher level of fulfillment. And that's why the Passionate Professional series is getting us closer to professionals from all walks of life, bringing us closer to them. The way I always say it is just like you have candles or a flame. By bringing a candle closer to the flame, you can light up the flame and then you can set off a cascade reaction. And that's the entire design of this series to bring us closer to professionals from across all walks of life that are going out there. They're not just defining themselves by their titles, but they are going out there and they're making a change in the world. Our guest for today is already in the studio and she's ready to add value to us. As I always like to say, remember, it's not just a one-way conversation. It's not just between myself and our guest for today. It's supposed to be a conversation between all of us. So if you have any questions, suggestions, if you get a light bulb moment from our conversation, share it in the chat because that's how we help ourselves. It is a community. So just before I bring our guest up for today, as is the tradition on this show, I would like to start by asking a question. And the question I would like to ask today is this. The question I would like to ask today from all of us is this. When was the last time you failed at something? When was the last time you failed at something? You might wonder what kind of question is that? Where did that question come from? Um, the reason I'm asking this question is for many of us, we are very, very comfortable. We're very, very happy with the fact that we've not failed at something before, at something major in our lives, and we wear that like a medal. And that used to be me as well. And by all means, that is something good in our lives. But I think, as they always say, good is the enemy of great, or good is the enemy of best. I think we need to have a different perspective about failure. And I'll tell you why. There is someone named Sarah Blakely. I don't know if you've ever heard about her. She's the founder of Spanx. Um, Again, guys might not know what Spanx is, but Spanx is a clothing outfit that makes is it leggings for females. And the founder Sarah Blakely in 2012, she was declared as the youngest self-made billionaire in the world. And someone was asking her what's the secret of her success, and she said when she was much younger, her dad used to ask herself and her brother, "What have you failed at today?" And I thought to myself, is it that our dad was expecting her to fail or something like that? But no, I think this is what our dad was trying to get her to have that mindset or that mentality that she was comfortable with failure. And if you get to that stage that you're comfortable with failure, you'll not be afraid of trying the things that you want to try. So Sarah is successful today, her brother is successful today because they've not let the fear of failure hold them back. I watched a recent interview with Elon Musk. As we all know, Elon Musk is the founder of Tesla. And someone was asking him about how he started Tesla. And he said that he thought the whole Tesla idea was going to fail. And the person was shocked. He was like, well, if you thought it was going to fail, why did you try? And what he said struck me. He said, you should try whatever is important to you, even if it has a high probability of failure. So, again, I'll take you back to that question, which I just asked. When was the last time you failed at something? If you cannot really answer that question, then that means that you're probably not reaching out of your comfort zone. And that's one challenge I want to give to you today, to reach out of your comfort zone and try things, because if it's important to you, then you should try it, even if you have a chance of failure at it. If even if you fail at it, you'll be like Thomas Edison when asking, you tried 10,000 times to make a light bulb and you did not succeed. What do you think about that? He said, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I only learned 10,000 ways that don't work. And that's what I want you to have a perspective. The perspective I want you to have of failure today. That way, if you fail at something, you are not a failure. You've only learned ways that will not work. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest for today. I hope we are all seated with our seatbelts fastened. We have our, I wouldn't say popcorn because it's not sure per se, but we have our notepads ready and we're ready to learn from our guest for today. So I'll go ahead and read about. So our guest for today is Buki Ishola. She had a formal education in Nigeria and the United Kingdom, and thereafter she started her career at EY London, where she qualified as a chartered accountant and chartered tax advisor. Prior to retraining and transitioning to full-time coaching, she spent 15 years in her corporate career as a UK and international tax specialist, working with global brands in the natural resources sector. Now, as an executive coach, she works with African diaspora professionals and leaders in Europe, North and South America, and the Middle East to navigate challenges at work, accelerate the realization of their career goals, and become high impact leaders in their organizations. Buki lives with her husband and two children in London. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to join me to invite to the virtual stage our guest for today, who is no other person than Buki Ishola. Hi, Buki.
Hi,
Welcome today.
thank you. Thanks, Tunde. Thanks for having me. Great. Can you hear
Thank
me
you. Thank
okay?
you for honoring the invitation. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Excellent.
Welcome to the Passionate Professional series. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Um, I know
Likewise.
that
I enjoy reading your
the tech
posts on
is.
LinkedIn.
Oh
I
yeah,
said
yeah.
likewise. I
Likewise,
enjoy
bro.
reading your posts on LinkedIn, so it's good to be live with you here.
Thank you so much. I think I'm learning from you if it comes to LinkedIn posts.
Okay.
I, I would say that yeah, because yeah, you have a very active following on LinkedIn because you add a lot of value to be honest, and that's
Thank you.
really something commendable. Thank you for doing
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
So, so for the purpose of our guests, for people that are watching live and those that will be watching the replay as well, I have read your bio, but again, like I always tell people, bios are things that if I can put it this way, we package them like this is my bio. But obviously, if you're sitting at a dinner table with someone, it's not a bio. It's just, can you tell me more about yourself? You know, when it comes to like networking and things like that. So I would like to learn more about you. Tell us a bit more about yourself, your background, and what you do.
Okay. Oh, great. Well, why don't I just start by saying my full name? My full name is Olubukola Ishola. And every now and then, this is interesting, I'll connect with people maybe from a Nigerian background on LinkedIn. And even though my name says Buki, they would write back and call me Bukola, which I always actually enjoy because no one calls me Bukola, but my full name is Olubukola. So I was born in Nigeria. I moved to the UK when I was 14. So the bulk of my education has been in the UK. So I originally actually trained as a pharmacist. I studied
Mm.
pharmacy at King's College in London. Halfway through my degree, I realized pharmacy wasn't the thing. um, so I finished my degree and well, I started looking for other things that I could do. So I landed in professional services, accounting, particularly in tax. And I did that. And I think I'm someone where if things isn't working and I know it's not the path I want to go on, I'm quite quick to find out what is the next thing and actually, move myself along that way. So yeah, like I would say, other things about me not on the bio. I'm very driven, really self-motivated, and very passionate about personal development because I've seen the impact in my own personal life. That I write about this on LinkedIn, and if you follow me regularly, it's consistent. Is one of the things I share that we're not trees. We can change positions, and where you start from isn't where you have to finish. And that's the story. That's my story. Literally, whenever I've run into difficulty or run into something that isn't, working, isn't how I want it to be, it's always like, okay, what can I do about this? What do I need to shift? How do I need to change? So there's a few more things about me. I think my children will also say I'm funny. I think there's a very serious side to me, but there's a very relaxed side to me. And Most people don't know that until you're really close, but my children will call me cheeky and yeah, and other things. So yeah, there's that side of me too.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And the short form Buki, where did that come from? Is that something that you crafted yourself or someone else?
No, I think it's a common name, isn't it? Olubukola,
Yeah,
they call you Buki. What I
yeah,
did do was I spelled it differently. So when I arrived in the UK, and I started my schooling here, I used to in Nigeria. I used to spell my name Buki as Bukky. But when I
yeah,
landed here, teachers would call me Bucky, which I found
yeah,
really annoying. So I then realized actually if I change the spelling to Bukky, then they will pronounce it properly. They'll call it Buki. So most people can pronounce Buki properly unless
yeah.
they're being lazy and, and don't want to try. Yeah. So I don't like being called Buki. Yeah. So Buki is just a common abbreviation of the name.
Oh, okay. You said something when you were introducing yourself. I'm curious about. You said you're someone that if you see something is not working, or you know something is not working, you move on quickly. I just want to get your perspective on this because this is something I think about a lot. Like there can be two sides. There can be
Yes.
the side that you change things very quick frequently, which is not great. I mean, you change
Yeah.
something, you try something, it doesn't work, you just and then they can be the side that you keep at it even when it's not working, which sometimes people call consistency. But again,
Yeah.
sometimes it might be overboard. Like something's obviously not working. There's a roadblock here, and someone is still hitting that roadblock. So
Yeah.
how do you find that fine balance? Like, okay, am I doing this thing for long enough or not? Do you get my
Yeah.
question? It's
Yeah. I
just
understand that. Yes. No, no, you don't want to be I don't know what is that. You don't want to be someone, yeah, up and down, yo-yo. Like you don't, you
yeah,
need to have staying power. So I think, well, specifically around careers, when we talk about like pharmacy. So when I was encouraged to do pharmacy because the usual stuff. Parents wanted me to do medicine. I didn't like medicine, so I settled for pharmacy. So and I actually got a job at Boots. So I spent a few while I was at university, I got a job at Boots and I didn't like it. It also turned out that I didn't like hospital pharmacy. I didn't like working in industry. So community was I didn't like industry because back then all I thought pharmacists did in industry was work in labs, which I wasn't interested in. So yeah, there wasn't yeah, I didn't want to do community pharmacy, but I didn't
yeah,
just change my degree. I actually went ahead and finished my degree and got a good degree. What I did do was find what else could I do with my degree other than pharmacy. And it turned out that there's so many other opportunities that back then people only know many like really good organizations only needed you to have a good degree
mhm,
and they would take you on board. So that's how I know I went on a graduate program with Ernst and Young, and I needed to have a degree together and the A level points and all of that. So the point is, I did finish my degree, and also when I switched and left, professional services in my previous career, I realized like 3 years after I qualified as an accountant in tax, I realized I knew I wasn't going to retire as a tax accountant because while I liked working in the world of business, I really liked that environment. I think,
yeah,
I enjoyed my corporate career and all the bits. What I didn't particularly like that well was the work I was doing, like technical bit, the tax. I'm not that interested in what the government is doing and all the new tax regulations and all of that. And as you rise in your career, you have to I think your life is a lot easier. I think our careers are
mhm,
very demanding. Corporate world is very demanding, and things that will be a little bit easier for you if you're actually interested and vested in the topic that you're expert in. So being a tax expert without having that much interest in tax wasn't great. And
yeah,
so while I knew that in 2008 that I wasn't going to retire as a tax accountant, it doesn't matter how much opportunities and because obviously it's a career that has high monetary rewards, so to say, if you stay in it and go all the way. I didn't actually leave until 2020, right at the beginning. I left my corporate career in February 2020. So that's a long time to staying and and building the skills and building the
yeah,
experience. And I'm glad I stayed because I learned so much, the skills and that I'm actually using in my career now.
yeah,
So yes, to answer your question, it's a long way to answer. No, I'm not talking about just moving on. What is you realizing, okay, I don't really like this. What is next? And then doing the research and at the appropriate time you make the shift.
And what was that? What was that? I mean, I'm sure it must have been a transition, I would guess.
Yes.
But what was that last day? You know, that day where you just dropped your, is it resignation letter? What did you feel like? You just,
Okay. Yeah, so I think it was it started the year before. I think 2019 I was coming up to like a milestone career a career milestone, and it was like, okay, um I'm climbing this ladder, but I know this is not it. And I think as you also become more senior in your career, it becomes more, like I said, it becomes more demanding on you. There were things I wanted to be doing, um, like getting more involved in, whether I was writing publications or going to conferences, and I didn't have the energy for it. And for me, that was, and like I said, I'm quite driven. I'm not the person to be at the back seat. You know, whatever I'm doing, I want to be doing it well. I want to be at the front seat, and but I didn't really have the energy for it. So it was a case of actually, if I don't leave now, then I'm not putting in my best because I'm not enjoying what I'm doing anymore. So it's best for me to leave. So it was a journey. And when you left, it was a bit scary because I was living certainty for uncertainty. So it was scary, but what I had a lot of faith. I knew it was the right thing to do, and I also knew it was the right time. And the worst thing, worst case scenario, if it isn't working, I'll go back. Right. So it's not as if I can't go back to what I was doing before, and it's something that I would easily get a job. Like during the pandemic while I was at home, I was getting offers to come and work, to come and work. So it's facing. I think the lesson there is at some point you make up your mind. There's a clear decision that this is the right step for me. I don't know how it's going to plan out, but
yeah.
I'm committed to it and I'm going to make it work.
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes when you have that fear of failure, but you still go ahead with it, I think that's the sign of faith. Just like you said, you have to
Yeah.
just, you can't see the entire staircase, but you just want to take that first step.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I'll tell
couldn't.
you, it took me a while to actually tell people that had left, because people, you left to do what? To do coaching. And back then coaching isn't people don't really know much about coaching. Like what
Yeah,
is coaching? What are you going to do? It took me a while. It took me a long while, even a longer while to tell my dad that I had left. Something secure, and I was doing my own thing. But
yeah.
absolutely no regrets.
Wow, wow. Thank you for sharing that. And since you mentioned coaching, I think it's a nice segue into the next question I was going to ask you. So, what are some of the things that you are passionate about now? What do you do? What are things that drive you? You're a very driven person. So, what are those things?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been, even from my corporate days, I'm very much driven by um personal development drives me, growth. Like, you're at point A today and tomorrow you're at point B. I really like growing, challenging myself. I remember if you had asked me maybe at the beginning when I started my um coaching practice to come on LinkedIn Live like this, no, there was no way. That was a journey I had to go on to get comfortable appearing on video, and I blogged about it. And quite
Yeah,
frankly, I hired a coach to help me get over the barriers around that. Um, so it's, yeah, really passionate about personal development, really passionate about growth, and really just pushing myself. I think we all have unlimited potential. That is the truth. It's a matter of deciding, how you want to add value to the world, the contribution you want to make, and then going for it. And it's like everything, you start off everything, starting even coaching or anything, you start off at the bottom, right? And you work
yeah,
on yourself and you build it. So
yeah,
I'm in that mindset that, if I'm willing to do the work and apply myself and allow myself to be changed and involved and get the necessary help, then yes, I'll grow. So really passionate about growth and personal development. It's a real something that's really important to me.
yeah. I think I share that similarity with you as well. I'm passionate about growth and personal development. Just like you said, I wouldn't have done this that I'm doing. And by the way, this is actually 2 years today since I started doing this passionate professional series.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't 2 years ago. I would not have stepped up to do
Yes.
anything like this. But that's the thing. Someone, just like you said, change is hard initially when you start, but at the end is something beautiful. It might be messy in the middle, but at the end,
Yes.
something beautiful is going to come out of it.
Yes.
So yeah, personal development and growth, I totally agree with that. I think it's something I'm passionate about, and that's why I do the passionate professional series.
Okay.
So, question I always ask people I bring on my show, because I'm trying to reinforce something, and that is that we need to have our values.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that that if you ask them what are your values, they look like, are you like, what are you talking about? Are you from this planet? Well, I always try to reinforce it that people that have values, that know their values, they go miles ahead of people that don't know their values. And that's why I always
Mm-hmm.
ask it. So people can see that, oh, this person has values, this person has values. So what are my own values? So I'd like you to tell the audience today, what are your values?
Okay, what are my values? Actually, one of the exercises that I tend to get clients to do, do a values exercise where they identify their values. So I'll share some of mine. Definitely one of it is wisdom. I think pursuing wisdom. I think wisdom is a really powerful thing. You can avoid, one, not only will it avoid problems, but it also get you out of problems. So really pursuing wisdom in all that I do, and really trying sticking to acquire more wisdom. Another one, is success. I'm a firm believer in personal success, and I think for me, success is about that realization of a goal, working towards something, and really becoming a finer and better version of yourself. That's important to me. I'll share another one. The third one I would say is family. Um, Ultimately, I know being able to I have two children, and being able to, pass along values and virtues, just like my parents did. And I was raised by wonderful parents, and I know the opportunities I had was a lot better than the ones that they had. My dad was, well, both of them, went to missionary schools, whereas how they were able to send me to private schools. And so I think every generation it gets better. So being able to pass something better to my children, I think that's really important to me, and really instilling good values in them and character, spending time with them, because ultimately I think time is what really makes um impact. It's a time. Spending our time is one of the ways that we actually make impact, spending time with people. So I think I'll stop there. Those are three that I would say: wisdom, like success, and family.
Family. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I like that one. I think you're the first person that I'm going to interview that. I mean, people have mentioned success, family, but firstly, when you talk about wisdom, and I think that's a really interesting one, and I like that because yeah, if you have wisdom, I mean, it helps you navigate every other
Yeah.
thing. So that's a really cool one. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Moving on, just from your values then to your habits, because your habits are things that you do. I mean, your values are kind of like what drives your life, but your habits are those things that you do, whether day in, day out, or week in, week out, or month in. Or I know one of them is definitely writing, because for you to to have as much content as that on LinkedIn, you probably have time that you write. So, what are some of your productive
Uh,
habits?
so productive habits. I think you'd say I think a lot. I think it's
Mm,
actually I spend a lot of time thinking. In my When I was in corporate, I probably spend more time, my morning, let's talk about morning routine, typically morning routine. You wake up and read the Bible, say a prayer, and exercise on Sundays. I think now I probably wake up, I still exercise, but I spend more time thinking than reading and praying. I think there's just a lot to think about, making sense of the word. Thinking is one that I do a lot. Journaling. I think that's how I get a lot of the. I don't necessarily think to write, but by virtue of me, because I'm always working on my own life. I told you one of my key values of personal success. How do I create more
yeah.
success for myself, my family? I think about that a lot, and the natural output of that is that you just get ideas because I'm challenging myself. And a lot of the things I write about also things that I'm going through. That's why many times the post resonates, because I'm not just telling you theory, the things that I'm going through. I'm seeking to change my life. So a lot of thinking. I don't do as much reading as before. I used to be like a ferocious reader, but I don't. I, the journey to work. I we sit on the train, so you had time to read. I haven't really quite gotten into the habit of listening to books. So
Yeah.
now I spend more time either listening to podcast or YouTube. But I don't.
Yeah.
I've reduced the amount of content, external content that I actually consume.
Mm.
I'm always trying to pull things out of me. I think we're all, we all have. I always say this. I strongly believe that the future of anything is within the thing, right? So
Yeah.
whatever Buki is going to become tomorrow, it's in her. It's for me to pull it out. So I
Yeah.
spend more time actually trying to sort out my own thoughts and really get in touch with what's going on within me. What do I want to call forth next for my life? And I think too much of external content can sometimes be distracting.
Mm.
Another thing that I do, but so the another thing that I do also, obviously, I run a business. I haven't run a business before, so I spend a lot of time as well learning around how to run this business so it doesn't fail. As you know, many businesses are fail. How do I make sure I don't become a statistic? And yeah, so while I can do all of that thinking, but being able to access people who are much further ahead of me and people who know how to do things, because there's a way to do LinkedIn, there's a way to write content on LinkedIn, there's a way to get clients on LinkedIn. So it's not a case of we're just coming online and just sending content. There has to be some logic and strategy behind that. So I do engage with people who can teach me and show me the way in
Mm.
relation to that. I don't watch a lot of TV, if I'll be honest. I don't, but I think having two children, a husband, running the business, you got it's so much going on. So I don't get that much time to watch TV. Yeah, I stop there.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, I'm taking notes as you're talking. And you mentioned thinking and journaling. You mentioned running your business. But the one I liked the most was when you're talking about pulling out things from inside. And it reminds me of a story that I heard about. You might have heard it before about. I think it was a monk that went to the master and was asking the master that I want to become greater or something like that. And the master was just there looking at him, was not saying anything. And the master was had a teacup in front of him and was pouring tea. Was pouring tea into the cup. And he was just asking the master the same question: Can you teach me how to become great? How to become great? And the master didn't answer him. He was just pouring the tea into the teacup. Was pouring the tea into the teacup, and the teacup was full and it was overflowing. And he was looking at the master like, "Is this master alright? Like, can't you see? Can't you see that this cup is overflowing? What are you doing?" And then when he asked the master the question, "What are you doing? Can't you see the cup is overflowing?" He said, "That's the problem with you. Like, you need to empty yourself before you can become full again. Like, you're already full." And that's just what you kind of illustrated. Like, a lot of people just keep consuming content. Oh, I
Yeah.
want to go to this conference. Oh, I want to watch this video, read this book, but they are not pulling out from within. So they're already full, but
Yes.
they're not being fruitful because they're not pouring out. And I
Yeah.
found that really. I'm going to save that and talk about that someday.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, thank you for that. It all seems like everything has been smooth sailing the way you said it. Like, oh, I just went to uni and then I got a job at EY. And then after about 15 years of working in corporates, I said, I started a business. And everyone was like, oh, yeah, so life has been so easy for you. But obviously, we know that's not true. Is there
Yeah.
anything you want to share about a challenging time in your life or a difficult point in your life and how you're able to navigate it?
Yeah. I mean, ooh, yeah, life is full of challenges, isn't it? You move from one to okay, which one do I want to share? I mean, I work a lot with Black professionals. Like, there's a reason for that, right? I work with African diaspora professionals. Why did I land on, on that particular group of people? Well, it bears out is from my own experience. I did have there were times or season in my life where I had challenges. The career wasn't. I told you I'm driven, and it wasn't moving in the right direction. What I was saying wasn't good, and I felt really frustrated and I was trying hard, to get ahead and it wasn't working. And then a lot of the things that I tell people, I share on LinkedIn what the sort of things that I had to do to get myself moving in the right direction. So working on my own mindset, looking at where am I holding myself back, and then looking about where do I need to challenge other people. Where is where are my leaders, organization not doing their bit around helping me to grow, helping me to access opportunities that will allow me to realize my potential as other people around me were. So that was a really challenging time. But thank God, you got through that. I think that's a professional one. Um, there was, I mean, another one that I can think of is, I think I started off my career, I was quite confident, but along the way you get feedback here and there, my confidence dipped. And I remember someone describing me as reticent, and I really did not like that. The
That's
idea
a
of
big
being
word. Reticence. What does it mean?
exactly, so was someone that withholds, like shy, or I think it's a worse form of shy,
Really?
or being shy. So yeah, so someone to give in to holding back, and I didn't like that. And I realized, well, I need to fix this. So I did some work around confidence, growing my own confidence. And I think you're never done with the work of confidence, because every time you change level, then you have like new level, new demons. They say every time you're doing something new, you're going to come across that fear, you're going to come across the terror barrier, and you have to just again elevate your confidence um, above that. So there were some, yeah, challenges definitely. You get your dream job, or you get the dream promotion, you think, oh, this is it, and then what happens? You immediately run into challenges again, and then you have to overcome that. So I think they're just normal. What I know now that I didn't know back then was that actually that's how it's supposed to be. Some of these challenges are normal, and everyone is going through theirs. And to the extent whatever is within your control, just face that, and whatever other people need to deal with, don't be shy about challenging people in the right way, and holding them to account. So that was something. So that's on the professional side. On personal side as well, I've had challenges. My journey to motherhood wasn't smooth. um, I went through a stillbirth, miscarriages, and that was difficult. And I really leaned into prayer during that time. When I had when I was carrying my son in particular, it would be, don't worry about the whole 9 months. Just take it day by day. I think it was during that season I learned, the principle of living day by day. Like, I don't have to get through 9 months. I just need to get through today. And then you wake up the following day. Okay, I need to get through today. So that really helped me. Well, and also I think the last one I'll share, I told you, I left work in February 2020 to actually do this, and I set up the company in 2019. And then 2020 was actually left to start working on it full time. But what happened, isn't it? March 2020, everything goes into lockdown.
COVID.
And I remember, yeah, waking up one like late March and coming down, came downstairs and just sat in my living room and thinking, oh dear, what is this? And I think from that, in hindsight, now I know the power of decision. Because at that point, it was that one early morning, and I just made the decision that this thing is going to work. The pandemic or no pandemic. So what then happened was I had to just really reorganize myself. The plan I had before, out of the window, it wouldn't work, and really just connected with the help I required. I think that was the first time I realized, okay, this whole thing. I've had career coaching before, but I didn't know about business coaching. But really, I leaned into business coaching, and that helped. So people, educating me on some strategies that I could use to help the business. So all of that really helped me to understand, fast forward to where I am now, it really helped me to understand, the power of decision, the power of just seeking for help, that even if everything is going downhill, if you decide I don't want to go downhill, and you put in the effort, you ask for help, you get the help you can, at least you're doing your bit. Things won't always turn around, yes, we know, but the reality is um you will have the witness that you did all within your power. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. As we always say, that when you share those challenges that you go through, and I appreciate the fact that you're able to even go to a personal level and uh, I mean become more vulnerable and sharing your
Yeah.
personal story with us. It just helps us connect with you more, and you encourage us by sharing. I mean, there might be someone watching the stream thinking, "Oh, I'm the professional, but my life this is not going smoothly in my life." And I love the way you said it. That you just live day by day.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a story that I read about a minister. This was actually a minister, like a preacher that was always worried about his next service, his next funeral he was going to conduct, or his next church service.
Yeah.
And then he saw his wife washing plates one day. And he was like, how is she able to? And she was just singing songs as she was washing the plates. And they were like, how are you able to wash plates? I mean, you've been washing these plates since we married for how many years, and
Mm.
you're still doing it. And then I think that's when it struck him that it's just that she was just washing today's plate. She was not trying to
Yeah.
wash tomorrow's plate. She was just washing today's plates here and there. So she didn't think about, oh, I'm going to be married to this man for 50 years and I'm going to wash 200 million plates. She was just focusing on the day, living day by day.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. I also like the part where you're talking about confidence and how you found that challenging. And sometimes I still find that challenging at the workplace. I'll be honest. I remember when I was doing one of my previous jobs, one of my consultants said to me like, um, "I have a problem with you. You're always just very quiet. I don't even know what's on your mind." And then that person said, "You always look unhappy." I was like, "Really?"
Yeah.
Now every time I see your face,
Yeah.
but it's just me trying not to. I mean, trying not to go overboard and just keep to myself and not offend anybody. Well, I think
Yeah.
someone was saying that personally, like because when people don't know what's on your mind, they don't know whether you are
Yeah.
happy with them, angry with them. But I think that's an issue that many of us, maybe from minority or non minority backgrounds, we find hard to deal with, and that's expressing ourselves fully in the workplace. So I
Yeah.
think it's like a good segue to my next question: that how can we be more confident in the workplace? I mean, without going overboard, without
Yeah.
seeming is it passive aggressive? But how can we express more
Mm.
confidence, find our voice in the workplace?
Yes. I don't know whether you can go overboard with how you are. I think, yeah, being who you are. So the whole thing, usually you find people, um, well, give my own example. Okay, there was one, okay, I had some negative feedback, which I had over personalized and, allowed it to affect me. So one is think about, okay, if you ask yourself, when did this confidence problem start for me? If you can retrace it, I think that's a good that's a good thing, and say, okay, when did this start and then what happened around that time, and really think about what you internalized, because it's not so much what people say to you or what happened, is what you make it to mean, is the interpretation we give to things, and then that can become a bondage. So you really check what is the source of when your confidence dipped. The other thing I had said to people is you have to accept yourself, because I've had that feedback as well. Reticent. You don't talk much. But what was really the source of that? There was an element where I was editing myself. I always say, like, I'll give you a classic example. I'm a church girl, right? So on Sundays I would have been in church. On some Saturdays I would have been in church volunteering or doing, attending a program. And then I get to work on Monday and people are talking about their weekends. And they say, "Oh, Buki, what did you do over the weekend?" "Oh, it was a quiet one, not much. I didn't do anything." And then you can't say anything and the conversations are going. And then so people don't get to know you and people don't
Yeah,
know what you're up to. So I had to break that barrier, earlier on when I wouldn't be sharing. But then later on, like, you know what? I'm happy with my life. I go to church
yeah,
on Sundays and I like that. Other people would have done something else and they're sharing what they did
yeah,
comfortably. They don't feel the need to edit themselves. And here I am, I come in and I'm feeling the need to edit myself. So I had to get rid of that. I had to accept me because truly, I truly love my life. I love how I am. So just going there, and I don't, for me, I never had a problem of thinking of anyone. I never worried about what people thought of me, whether you think I'm an angry woman or whatever other stereotypes people have. I have no anger in me. So if you think I'm an angry woman, then you're the one that has a problem, because this woman has no anger in her. So I don't allow. I didn't later on in my career. I didn't allow people to pull me in chains. I released all the chains.
yeah,
In my heart of heart, I know, I believe I'm a solid professional. I do my job well. It doesn't mean I'm perfect. I'm hoping to take in feedback, but I didn't feel the need to edit myself anymore. And I think as you get rid of that need to edit yourself, then your true personality begins to show up.
mm,
Another thing that comes in the way, that can get in the way, is maybe people are talking about things that you don't know, whether is they're talking about golf or wine and you don't drink wine. There's so many conversations that it can be happen. If you're a minority, accept the fact that being a minority means something. It means you come from a different background. It means you come from a different culture. So the things that people do around you, don't put yourself under pressure to know everything. So just being able to accept that and just ask questions and turn it into a conversation. So rather than not join the conversation because you don't know what they're talking about, well, turn into um try and turn into a question, or just find out, be open about finding out things that you do not know. So a key part of growing in confidence is that acceptance, accepting yourself, in your
Yeah.
entirety, and not putting yourself under pressure to be like someone else. You know how I did a presentation yesterday, you know, to another group, and one person raised the issue that they were concerned that they were too animated when they talk. I'm like, the reality is Black people are animated when they talk. It's part of our culture. Seriously, we don't, you're not a newscaster that you have to be still. As
Yeah.
long as your animation isn't distracting from your message, stay animated. I talk with everything: my eyes, my hands, my cheeks. Allow yourself to be you, because the reality is when you're there and you're editing yourself too much, you're no longer in the room. You're not fully in the conversation. You've
Mm.
allocated some brain space, mind space to dealing with all these other issues that your counterparts, your white counterparts, don't have to deal with. So they,
Yeah.
they could just be adding more value into the room, and here you are in your own, to a degree, self-imposed chains. And yeah, so I just encourage people, gradually just release yourself
Mm.
and allow yourself to be. And obviously, if you need coaching around that, then feel free to reach out to myself or another coach that you think would be able to help you.
Cool. Yeah, I like that, and I've never heard that being used in that context, like editing yourself. And it,
Yes,
to be honest, it can be really, really, really draining. Like it takes a lot of energy to be someone else that is not
yeah,
yourself. Yeah, and you,
yes,
you just find that you get home and you're like, it's like you're taking off that cloak of being someone else, and it's really
yes,
exhausting, isn't it? So
yeah,
yeah, I love
absolutely.
that advice. Like, be yourself, and I also like the way you put it, like that. No one can make you feel inferior without your own permission, which
Yeah,
is very true.
yeah,
So be
absolutely.
yourself, be comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, for the purpose of our audience, just remember it's not just. I'm getting a lot from my conversation with Buki, but always we feel free ask questions. If you have any questions, pop it in, and then we'll address it as we go along. The next question I was going to ask you is, because you deal with a lot of people that are looking to elevate their levels in their career, like they've been at a level for so long, and it's very common again, just as we say with minority ethnic background professionals. They find out they've been at a level for so long, or they've been at a pay scale for so long. I was at the UK Black Business Week about 2 weeks ago, and some people were saying that compared to their like a typical Caucasian worker asks for a pay rise about 4 times a year, and I was like, what? Like, where did that come from? And they were like, the black counterparts, some have never even asked for a pay rise before.
Yes.
Um, so, what are some of these common mistakes that people need to be knowing about, and when it relates to their careers? What are some of the common mistakes that professionals, especially from ethnic minority background, what that they make in their careers?
Yeah. I have a wonderful document on this. Was it a document, a PDF, because I actually put it together, like seven mistakes that people make that hold back their careers. So if someone is listening and this is an area you're interested in, go on my website and download that seven mistakes document. And so there's some seven things there that that are on there that are very relevant, highly relevant. We've talked about confidence. That is one. And this is one another common mistake, but it's not actually on there. So I'll share something new. Go and get the seven mistakes document, and I'll give you some additional ones that are not on there. One is I think we give up our power too easily. We don't realize how much power we have. I think every individual, and that was, I said earlier around how I changed things in my career. One of the ways I changed things was realizing that I actually had more power than I was using. Now, so for example, I had in an organization where they would give you you allocated your own career coach or counselor or someone to support you in your career. And I didn't think mine was doing a good job. I didn't think they were helping me enough, and they were almost working against me. And I remember early on, I spoke to another senior manager about it, and they said, "Oh, sack the person. Just ask for someone else that you don't want the person anymore." I was like, "Sack? How can you sack? Wouldn't that be the end of my career to say, this is a manager I've been given and I don't want them anymore?" So I didn't think I could do it. Well, fast forward, and things deteriorated to the point where I was actually livid. I was hungry. I can't have this person anymore because they're not helping me. So I asked for them to be changed, and nothing happened. It had no negative impact on my career. So whereas I was suffering all this while, putting up with this person thinking I couldn't ask for someone else. So in a way, we give up our own power. And equally, I say that in coaching conversations when I, raise something with someone and they would say, I don't think I can do that. Like it never crossed their mind that they could do that. So really taking our power back. Um, so that's one thing. Another thing is you have to be very mindful. Again, this is another one that is not on there. But another thing you have to be mindful of is the interpretation you give to being black. I think being black means different things to different people. And if you interpret black to mean I can't get ahead or whatever or the other thing, you have really put yourself in a tight spot, right? Because the reality is the way the mind works is we collect evidence for what we believe. So
Mhm.
if I think the world is against me because I'm black, I'm going to find different reasons why I'm going to be collecting evidence for that. So it's very important that you have an empowering view of yourself. The reality is this, black is just the color of your skin. Yeah. Right. If someone has a problem with your blackness, you have to make sure it remains the other person's problem. And this is my own fundamental belief. I said it earlier, all of us, our future is inside us. It's for you to call out. Your future is not dependent on any one person. It's not dependent on any organization. So if we give away her power and we'll attach negative meanings and negative expectations to the color of our skin, we are really, really what do you call it? We're holding ourselves back. So those are the things that and I see this sometimes in in coaching sessions where people have unconsciously just lowered the expectation that they have of themselves because of the environment, because of what they think is possible, what they think is available. And if there's anyone listening that this is resonating with, I'm really going to encourage you to really drop that. You have to go again. I keep talking about going within. What do you want? What do you want? And then how do I create it? If your environment isn't supportive, then the first step is how do I get them to be more supportive? What do I need to do? Is there anything I need to change about how I'm operating? If you've done that or you can't see anything, then well, you need to go somewhere else, right? So it's really honing your power, really believing that your destiny is in your hands, and as you grow your talent, I think we live in a marketplace that rewards value. And I also experience as you make yourself more valuable, over time, black or color of your skin actually just disappears. So really doing the work to make yourself really, really valuable. And I'm not saying that you're having problems. Someone may be having problems because they're not valuable. That's not what I'm saying. We know the reality that there are problems that exist, racism and all of that. Those are real. But what I'm saying is, don't make it your problem. Let it be with the problem. Let it be with the problem of the other party. Your problem is going to be how I get ahead. How am I going to get ahead? And that's what you face. Don't attach negative meanings and give negative interpretations to who you are and to how you are.
Wow,
You
well
know that?
said.
Yeah,
Well said. And yeah, for those who did not catch what Buki said earlier, on our website, citadelcoaching.co.uk, I have downloaded that document as well, the 7 common mistakes. I think you should have a look at it. And when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, yeah, I make this mistake a lot. Oh, yeah, I make this mistake a lot. So it's something you should definitely look for. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the website, citadelcoaching.co.uk. Have a look at it and be sure to download that document.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing that, and I love that. Don't give your power away. A lot of us give our power away too easily. We don't know how much power we have, and
yes,
so sometimes that ignorance actually holds us down. I'm
yes,
going to move on to the next question because I think there might be a question from the audience as well. Now, my next question is actually related to this picture that I once saw. That was when I was doing my training at work. And I love this picture because it kind of explained this concept to me. I always wondered what is equality, what's equity,
yeah,
and the first box there actually shows equality because sometimes we say we want
yeah,
equality, but equality is not really what we want because everybody has been given the box and the box
yeah,
is the
yeah,
same size, so that's equality. But we can see that for some people, it's not they are not in an empowered state. So, for
yes,
example, someone is disabled or something, and you are giving them, oh, this is the same thing we give everybody. That's equality. That's not
yes,
really what we want. And the next one is equity. It looks like somebody's been given a box, another person is given two boxes. one person doesn't have a box, but everybody actually has access to see the match. But
Yes.
the thing we're aiming for is the third one, where the barriers have been removed and everyone can actually see the
Yeah.
match without whether they are tall or short and things like that.
Yeah.
I know that you do a lot of work with leaders, even leaders from Caucasian backgrounds. So my question to you is this: that how can we address a lot of systemic barriers that we have in the workplace? How can we remove this fence so that everybody has a level playing field?
Oof, that's $1 million question. um, but the reality is, our organizations are just a reflection of the individuals in society, right? So how do you remove it from organizations? Think about how do you remove it from society. I think education is a big one. So the work that I do focuses all around on educating, yeah, predominantly white leaders on the barriers that Black professionals face and what they can do about it. I think when leaders um, when leaders are better educated about the problem, one, and they are interested in actually addressing it. Sorry, I
Sorry, I
think
lost the
yeah.
audio there. Okay.
I don't remember. I don't know what was the last thing you heard.
When leaders address the barriers in the workplace.
Yes, yes. So when leaders, I think a lot of it has to do, a lot of it, well, not the bulk of it has to do with leadership. Really, people being interested in actually removing the barriers. And I think it's the nature of individuals. There's an element of it, it's the nature of individuals to just put up barriers to things. But when you get leaders who are interested, who have a vested interest in making a change, in who come to the realization that the status quo isn't working and it isn't fair on anybody, it isn't fair on everybody, and you then you can make a change. I have a belief, people get into leadership positions because they've demonstrated usually a level of success or a level of leadership. My premise is that a lot of the problems that we have, that when leaders are really interested in solving it, I think we will solve it. I talked about when I had some challenges in the workplace. It just all it took for me to start experiencing something different was leaders to behave differently. So rather than opportunities just going to the usual typical people, is a leader saying, actually, let's bring in Buki to work and bring in Buki to work on this project. So I lay emphasis on leaders just doing the right thing. One, understanding the issues, because yes, some of it is unconscious, some of it is conscious, obviously, but really educating them. This is where the power of I really believe in the power of coaching. Coaching makes the unconscious conscious. That's what I like to describe it, in the sessions that I run, making the unconscious conscious so that people become aware of the subtle ways and of things that are just normalized, that they don't even know it's wrong. As we begin to educate them, and okay, well, then they can think, because they are leaders and I believe they're smart. They can think of ways to actually improve. So that's my experience, that when our leaders become enlightened and choose to change, these barriers actually start falling away. They start falling away because it is the responsibility of leaders to change the organizations, to make the organizations better. They do it in other areas. So why can't they do it when it comes to matters of inclusiveness and equity? So this is really important.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Michael Okore was just saying thanks for this. That's what we are talking about, some common
Yes.
mistakes, giving our power away and self-expectation, how we interpret um, what we see.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for sharing that. You actually answered the next question, which I was going to ask you, like, what's the importance of coaching? And I love how you just summarized it. You said coaching makes the unconscious conscious. Like, we all have blind spots. There are things that we do not
Yes.
know. Well, if you're
Yes.
like in a frame, you can't see the picture, but if you have someone who's observing you and telling you how you can
Yes.
improve,
Yes.
that's really great. And just like coaching, do you have like mentors, people that you look up to, or people that have inspired you in some way?
I think, well, now from for in my business, I don't get the privilege of having free mentors. I usually just I'm in paid mentorship programs. So
Yeah.
they're business mentors, and I pay them to to get their insights. But I do believe in the power of going after what you want, going, looking at what do you want. I think there's a plethora of mentors and coaches and things. But first of all, identifying what you want and being willing to do the work. I like how Michael put it, like self-expectation, expecting more of yourself. And when you expect more of yourself, it will also make you realize where are your gaps. I remember speaking to someone. I coached someone recently, and they were a VP at a bank, and they were questioning whether they could become a MD. This is around coaching. It's like, I really don't think I can make it. And I was asking them, well, why? Why do you think you can't do the role? Become a MD? And they couldn't answer it. And they realized actually they were just telling them that they could. They were telling themselves they couldn't. But when you actually challenge them, why couldn't you do the role? There wasn't anything substantial. And that's the power of coaching sometimes. That we believe all these things that we've heard is just you've picked it all over. But when you actually start challenging people in a coaching session, asking them questions, giving them tools, they realize that the barriers that they've put in front of themselves, actually, there's no substance to it. They can choose to walk away from the barrier.
Wow, thank you so much for
Yeah.
that. I always say this, and I don't know why I always say this, but when you're having like productive discussions, you would, I mean, even if you're having unproductive discussions, I think it works just as well for both of them. When you're having productive discussions, you won't know when time will just fly. You won't believe it.
Yeah.
We've almost spent 1 hour, and
Wow.
obviously, if you're having unproductive discussions as well, time will fly as well. So the
Yes.
question is, what did you make of the time? And
Yeah.
I'm happy that this was a very productive discussion. Because there is no comment or question from any other person, I'll just use this opportunity to ask one last question. We know that we're in an era of mass immigration in the United Kingdom and to the Western countries, basically. Well, if
Japa.
you had the exactly Jackpot culture. So if you had the opportunity to speak to a young individual, a young professional that's just found himself in a Western society, not really knowing what to do next and not wanting to settle for less, what advice would you give a young professional who's just starting out career now?
I think get yourself in the right environment. I think the people you're listening to will have a real impact on where you find yourself. Okay, so and and have expectation of yourself. So you will, for you to, you're probably doing well wherever you're coming from. So think about what do you want, and then again it goes back to how are you going to get it. But fundamentally, I think when you change environments, especially when you're coming into the Western culture, you need to put yourself in the right environment. So find the right groups to join and find the right groups that are going to give you the insights that will help you to get ahead, and be very clear in your mind what you want. Because if you're not clear what you want, it's very easy to settle, right? Very easy to settle. So make sure that you're clear on what you want and get the right people around you.
And get a coach.
Yes, yes, get coach. That will help.
And I like how Michael summed it up. He says this one in the pockets, making the unconscious conscious. So, Coach Buki, if you wanted to find out more about what you do or to get in touch with you, how do you do that?
Yes, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me. I mean, on my page there's a default follow button, but feel free to reach out to connect. You don't have to follow first, and also send me a DM. So send me a private message. I've talked about some. I have various resources on my website that you could go and download, or send me a message. I'm happy to just send it to you as well. Yeah, just connect with me on LinkedIn. I share regularly on LinkedIn on all things leadership, career success, personal success. So follow along.
All right. So thank you so much, Coach Wiki. Thank you for your time and thank you for adding so much value to us. Thank you to those who watch live. Thank you, Michael, as well for the comments. As I always say when we end the show, it's not. I mean, we're leaving. There'll be another episode at the end of the month of November, where we'll bring another guest to add value to us. But as I always say at the end of the show, um, till we meet again in another month's time, make sure that you keep living with passion and purpose. Thank you, Coach
Thank
Wiki.
you.
And bye bye, everyone. See you later.
Thanks, Tunde.